and this will start in now.
Relax, chillando. No, it's okay.
And we're live actually.
Hi guys, can you hear us?
Okay, so we got the official start. All's good. We can go.
Alright. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And welcome to this webinar on the power of words. My name is Sorin. I work as a technology solutions professional at Microsoft in Romania. And I work with customers trying to use our solutions from the data and artificial intelligence space. And with me tonight for this webinar is Alex Petrescu.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Alexandru Petrescu. I'm a Microsoft student partner for about 4 years now. And I'm also a .NET developer working with everything that Microsoft offers us. Really cool stuff.
Alright, so let's get to it. We will go through some of the features that Microsoft offers in cognitive services, and we will be focused on the text analytics part. So working with text, natural language processing. Before we go any further, we would like to remind you that you have the option to ask questions in the live chat window on the screen. So anything you want to ask, just pop in a question there and we'll try our best to answer within the hour that we have for this webinar. Alright, so what are Microsoft Cognitive Services? If you've never used them, they are ready-made, ready-to-use AI that can solve a wide variety of problems related to image recognition, video analysis, speech recognition, speech-to-text, language processing, knowledge graphs, knowledge understanding, search, and there are also some cool services that are only now coming into pipeline, into the public domain, and they are grouped together in the labs section. Alright, so you can actually access Microsoft Cognitive Services at the URL below at azure.com/cognitive. And again, they are basically AI services that are available for the normal developer to use. You don't actually need to be a data scientist or a statistician to use these kinds of services. And they can make your application a lot smarter, a lot faster than learning to do that machine learning stuff. Cognitive services, like I mentioned, they are covering a specific, a wide range of use cases. Computer vision, so anything that has to do with recognizing stuff in images and video, objects, people, celebrities, emotions, text recognition, content generation on video and images, and also you can customize these models to recognize your particular types of objects, like for example, I don't know, guitars or specific types of cars, for example. Then you have the speech section of cognitive services, which allow you to do things like speech-to-text, text-to-speech, real-time speech translation, speaker identification, so you can identify specific people speaking. And then you can also customize those models to recognize your specific domain words and things like that. Then you have the language section of cognitive services, which is kind of the focus of today's webinar. And they cover language detection, sentiment analysis, keyphrase extraction, entity recognition, spell checking, translation, and so on. And we are going to go a lot deeper here during the webinar, so that's it for now. Then there is a knowledge section that is able to that contains services allowing you to extract For non-structured text, specific types of knowledge, like for example, you can build a Q&A bot that uses a knowledge base, kind of a wiki or an FAQ page, to smartly answer natural language questions from the user. Hopefully we have a little time to do a demo on that as well. Then we have the search area, which is basically tied into Bing Search, which allows you to search for concepts, text, video, image, similar images, and so on. Auto-suggest and things like that. So all these services are online, which means that you basically hook into them and then call from your application, whatever application that may be, using either a HTTPS request with JSON, and you will get a reply with JSON as well. Or you can use specific platform SDKs, like the .NET one that Alex will show in the demo later on. Okay, so moving to a language. Basically, the language services allow you to process text. And it does a few things here. It allows you to do sentiment analysis, which basically will take a phrase and analyze it for whether that phrase has a positive, negative, or neutral sentiment. It's able to take phrases, to take a specific paragraph of text and do key phrase extraction, so basically understand what is the key phrase from a piece of text, and also retrieve topics, so maybe understand what that particular paragraph is about. It can also do language detection, so just identify the language that that particular piece of text is written in. So, actually have it, okay. So sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, topic extraction, and language detection are the basic features of text analysis in cognitive services. So just to get a better feel for this service and how you can actually use it, we're going to do a quick demo on the sentiment analytics feature of cognitive services. Okay, so we're just going to switch to Visual Studio, and I'll let Alex take it from here.
Okay, everyone, just so you know, this is going to be the end result of what we're going to build today. Here you can enter pretty much any text. I am somehow sad about what might happen. And if you analyze it and see the result. So this is negative with 66% precision, and we'll also do it with colors, red representing the bad stuff, green the good one, and blue the positive one. So we have in GitHub on our DX page, Microsoft DX, the demo. It should work if you are using the new Visual Studio. It may also work with some tweaks on the template for Visual Studio 2017. And let's start with the basics. What you're going to need is an Azure subscription. If you don't have one, you can get one here in the link. And also at least Visual Studio 2017 with .NET Web Development. We're going to use for this demo the .NET Core because it will run on pretty much anything. So let's go to Visual Studio. We'll create a new project. You can go either under .NET Core and see it down, or you can write here web.NET Core. Let's name it demo cognitive. Okay. We'll use an MVC, Model View Controller template for a web application. We'll also let it use HTTPS for extra security. The cool thing about all the cognitive services is that they are integrated in the Visual Studio, so you can go after it creates the template to connected services, and it will open this tab. Here you can get the cognitive services templates to get ready to use. If you don't see the cognitive services, it means that you do not have the plugin. So click on Find More Services and then search for cognitive. After you search it, you'll find cognitive services and download it, close Visual Studio, open Visual Studio again, and it should be ready to go, and you'll see those last four. So we're going to use for this one evaluate sentiment with text analytics. Okay. It's going to connect to a subscription or have issues with it. Okay. Click Add. By default, it's going to use the pricing tier 3 or S0 because it can't go any further than that for now. Let's click on Add. And now it's going to go on the internet, get the template, and get everything that we need. What we're going to need basically is the nuggets for this, and it's going to go up to appsettings.json to use our endpoint and also our key. And after it's done, it's going to open this page and it's going to tell us what to do. So let's get back to the solution. It has some issues. Things like this might happen from time to time, but don't be afraid. Now we can add the nugget as stated in the just open page. Okay, we're going to need it. Let's look for it. I think I passed it first. Okay, we'll install it. I accept. And we're going to need 3 types of components since we're in the MVC. We're going to need the model for our demo. We're going to need the controller that handles the overall usage of that model, and we're going to represent it in a view. So just for the sake of the demo, I'm not going to write all the code. I'm going to use the code that's on GitHub. So for the model, we're going to use this model. What it has is basically the text, the sentiment value, that is going to be a percentage, the sentiments text, neutral, positive, or sadness, you're going to see that in the view, and the sentiment batch result, that is the actual object from returned from the API, as you can see. Now let's get back to Visual Studio. Let's add the model, add class, simple class. Okay, we click on add, and I'm gonna copy paste the code for the model. If the copy paste allows me. Good. If you do this and not just get the project, it's going to have an error under this because we're going to need the namespace, the cognitive services namespace. Okay. Now we can add a controller, and since it's a template, we can just click on controller, select the MVC controller empty, select on add and use its name. Again, I'm going to copy paste it. It's really important to use name, then followed by controller for this type of class, because this is how it knows it's a controller, and this is how we're going to access the actual URL when we launch the MVC project. Okay, now it's adding the controller, and the controller, okay, it had an error for some odd reason. If it's not going to work, I'm just going to use a class, because it's just a class. Okay, let's add the class. We've added the class. Now let's get this huge amount of code, and I'm gonna walk through it for you to understand what's actually gonna happen. And the best way to walk through it is to pass it without any using and see that pretty much everything is read. So this class is on the inheritance tree of the controller. Okay, so we're gonna need Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC. Okay, we're gonna need a configuration interface because we're going to use information from the appsettings.json. Okay, and now what it's gonna do in the index, you can return the model, the view as it is without any information, but that for me it's just landing a basic page. So I'm gonna redirect to the action sentiment analysis result with already a model, the sentiment. Okay, and the basic test is I'm so happy about this demo for now. Okay, and this red is because I put a class inside the class with the same name. This is what happens when you copy paste. Good. Okay. In the default constructor, it's going to use the default settings, but we're going to also need the configuration, so we made a special constructor. Now, moving forward to the redirect, it's an action result that needs a sentiment analysis model. This is our model, and what's going to do? It will check if the given text is empty or not, because it needs to analyze valid text. Valid text means it has at least a character and not just white space. Okay, it needs an text analysis client. This is from the Microsoft Nugget for text analytics. What's gonna use? It's gonna get a handler for this text analytic client, and then basically it will send the request for us and get the response in a really nice way. The alternative for this, you can do it in pretty much any language, is to create a HTTP client, send I think this is a GET request or POST request. You can look into the documentation with the needed JSON, and you're gonna need the response and parse it to basically an object like this. Okay, it doesn't like the nuggets. I'm gonna handle it a bit later. Okay, so what does it need? This client needs pretty much just the multi-language input. What it means, it can detect language in pretty much, it can detect the sentiment in pretty much any language. If you look at the constructor, if it lets me, okay, I have an error. Why is that? It's because of the nuggets. Okay. I look at the installed, and now I'm gonna look at the solution on GitHub because I really don't remember the nuggets. Okay, so it should have just this one, which means the one installed in the preview is just for demos. It means that template that you get in cognitive services hasn't been updated. It should probably be updated in the next release of Visual Studio, and everything is fine. So what it does, we give multiple languages inputs, and it can get the sentiment for pretty much anything. The idea is to give it a unique ID because this is how you identify the result with the text. But this is just for clean coding. And now, what we're going to need when we use the getText client, it's gonna need a set of credentials. This is our set of credentials, and our credentials are in appsettings.json. So if we look here, we see the setup for cognitive services, for text analysis, we see the service key, the service endpoint, and the name. Okay, the model can go, the nugget can go, and we need just a controller. What's the issue? I haven't used it. Oops. I need Microsoft REST. So the credentials are going to identify our client on our subscription and use it.
Right. So basically, when we create a service in the a text analytics service in Azure, you will see that you actually get a endpoint depending on the region, Azure region that you create the service in, and you also get a key, which is basically your kind of passwords that your application uses to identify itself to the service.
Okay, and here we say that it's going to get the credentials from the configuration that's upsetting.json, and it's going to go to the cognitive services section and get the service key. Okay, this is the service key and this is the service endpoint, so here it needs service endpoint instead of service-based URL. We're gonna update the GitHub. Okay, and the delegate handler is just a basic redirect for the handler. Now, for the fun part, we're gonna create the view. The view, in the clean code way, I'm going to need to create a folder that's named exactly like the controller, right in views. And it's going to be named index, just like here. Okay. And here is the important parsing of the result, because if some of you know the context of sentiment analysis, there are many ways of exposing the result. Some of that is on a scale from -1 to 1. From -1 to 0 meaning the sentiment is negative. From 0 to 1 it's positive, and around 0 it should be neutral. Also, some other models use from 0 to 5. At about 3 they stop with the negative. From 3 to 5 they are positive. And so, in the one returned by Microsoft, if we look at it in the model, we can see that the result item in the documents is going to get a score. Okay, this score is between 0 and 1, which means that between 0 and 3, it will show in if you hover over it when in your actual program. Between 0 and 3, it's the negative result. Closer to 0, it's more negative. Between 03 and 07, it's neutral. Closer to 05, it's more percentage. And from 07 to 1, it's positive. The closer to 1, the better. Okay, and what's in the view? Okay, this is the bad namespace. We name it demo cognitive this time. Oops. Oh, it wants the model. Okay, we're gonna use the model. Good. Stupid. Okay, the sentiment is not. Fine. Okay, the title can be anything that you want. Now we're gonna get the sentiment score just for the first text, because we're actually sending just one document, because we're typing just one thing. And now here is the parsing part. If it's under 0.3, as you can see here, a decimal number between 0 and 1 denoting the sentiment of the document. Above 1 usually refers to a positive, while below 0.3 negative connotation. So here is the mathematical formula for percentages if you're a math fan. If not, you take the maximum, you remove your score, and you take it under the between of the max and minimum for that interval. In this case it's negative, and negative as a title also. For the positive it's the same formula, and for 0.5 it's something of a distribution around 0.5 if it's under or over. This page is really simple. because it's gonna use a table with some display, and for the columns we have the text, the sentiment type, and the sentiment score. And after that we're gonna have our bar that indicates our score. Because we're in a razor page, it means we can combine the best of all worlds, meaning C#, HTTP, JavaScript, CSS. So here you see pure HTML. Up you saw C#. And now in the actual display we're going to combine those. How you combine those? Well, you have your regular HTML, and when you want to use C#, use the at and then the actual C#. If you want more than just function call or just a bunch of text, you can use like this. And now I'm just writing C#. Okay, here you can write pretty much anything. This is usually used when you want to write custom display for things, meaning you can filter things. But now we're sticking to the basics. Okay, I'm going to get the display for this model text, just a string. Again, a string. Here is going to be the value, and we're showing it in percentages. How we're going to do that? Well, you saw right up we're using the toString with P2 as a formatter. This means it's a percentage. By default, this is a double, and the result is going to be double. By default, the double is just a number, but you can convert it to a percentage with P2. Okay, and then we're going to use a div. The magic here can be anything in HTML, and we're going to use custom class. That our class is just a box. As you can see here, it's just a box in a container, and based on the sentiment, the box is going to be either green, blue for neutral, or red for bad sentiments. Okay, and now we can start this. Hopefully it works. The build process is going to be really fast because it's ASP.NET Core. It's made to run on pretty much anything, and we don't have a lot of code. How do we get here? Well, you can understand how to get it in two ways. Either by looking at the views and see how it goes in the structure. It's going to be the name of the view, and usually if you don't have a redirect, it's going to be to the index page. So if now I'm on home and it's showing me the index page. But how I like to use it, I look at the controllers, I go in the controller, so ours is the most sentiment analyze controller, and it's showing me that it's going to redirect me to the sentiment analysis result action, which means it's going to look in the views demo sentiment analyze, and then it's going to look at the file name sentiment analyze results.cs.html. So this is how it gets there. And how do I get to it as a user? I need the name of the controller minus the part of controller and put it in the browser just over here. This is for regular controller. If you're going to use a web API controller, it's going to need a API with / before, but since ours is simple, it's going to be without the API.
I mean, on a real web application, you would probably put a link somewhere on the front page to get you to this link, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically the link that would activate that particular controller.
Yeah, like you see here, they put some effort in it and they made the redirect. It's not really hard, but we needed to edit the general page.
Okay. So basically now our controller gets invoked.
Okay, not found. Obviously, the demo is going to get an error, and now let's try debug it. Operation returning when status code not found. Well, it means it didn't found results. So let's look at what our controller uses. It needs, in the cognitive services part, text analytics services endpoint, and I don't know if I have it in the app settings.json. Cognitive services, main, text analytics, and then service endpoint, service endpoint. This should be fine. Okay, and then service key. Okay, service key. Okay. Well, it doesn't find. It's a common thing that happens to live presentations. But for a backup, we have the live solution from GitHub, and to prove that, on the changes for GitHub, without the valid git node, we have just the app settings.json modified. Okay, and let's run it.
So because we've been bitten by the demo gods many times in our other presentations, we know to have a working solution next to the one that we're live coding, just to make sure that we have something to show in case things go wrong.
And I'm missing an E. Okay. And this is the page you should be getting if you're pulling the GitHub solution and using the keys. So you see the basic text because I redirected it without anything. It used the base model with the text I showed you, and it's positive with a precision of 73.16, and you see this is green. This failed.
Our demo failed badly.
Let's see what this gets. It should be a little bad. Yeah. But it's not 100% because we expect it, and it understood that. Now, if you want to get to a truly neutral thing, I really don't know how to do that. I tried for about half an hour, and they do not show on the official page how to get neutral results.
Maybe just say that we are live streaming a cognitive services application or something.
Yeah. And if I write this is neutral, what you'd expect to be actually neutral, it's basically really close to the negative part.
Okay.
I don't find anything more neutral than this.
Okay, so 8.62 is actually close to...
Yeah, it's really close to the neutral.
To the neutral one, right.
It's just 8% bad.
Yeah, so it's bad but not too bad, it's just a little bit bad, right?
You should basically consider things bad going after 30%.
So one thing I would add regarding to this service is that it would actually tend to do better with longer phrases. So for example, if you would add, for example, a review for a product, something like, I don't know, a couple of paragraphs, for example, that will probably work a bit better. We don't really have time to do this now, but it will tend to do better with things like that. So for example, you can actually live demo this in the browser, just as Alex is doing now. So if you go to the Cognitive Services page, we are actually on right now. You can test this, live test this in the demo. Alex was kind enough to show us how to do it in .NET.
And this is gonna show you pretty much what we try to show you in the HTTP page, and also the JSON that this is gonna get with the classic HTTP request, and you can use it in pretty much any language, and please use it in a language that has a JSON parser. Don't try to parse it.
Right. Okay.
As you see, you get a list of documents with a unique identification. You get also the language, which is really nice, and you get the key phrases. Here through wonderful tree space needle, which pretty much summarizes it, and then you get the sentiment. And also, as you can see, you have an array of results because you can use it with multiple documents and get in the same JSON all the results. So if you want to split a really big document and get all the results in one part, you can do that also.
Right.
And you can find in the entities section the results. It identifies the space needle and also its Wikipedia URL.
Right, so this is actually a cool feature. It can understand specific entities, like named entities. So it doesn't identify space and needle as two common words. It actually identifies the space needle as the structure, the needle-like structure that exists in Seattle. and actually understands that that is a specific entity, and it actually gives you a URL, Wikipedia URL to that particular entity. So, for example, you could use it, for example, with Mars. If you have a phrase, we are planning a Mars mission. This particular service will understand the context and will basically, yeah. Okay. So.
And now,
so we have a detection of language is English, and then we have these particular, so for example, it can be Tesla as Nikola Tesla, it can be Tesla something else, okay?
yeah, and found out Mars.
And it's also found out Mars, okay? Right, so these are kind of the basic features of sentiment analysis.
You see also negative examples in English and in Spanish.
Right.
So now you know that we didn't fool you and we didn't find the
Right.
truly neutral phrase.
Okay, cool. So basically, we showcase the basic features. So language detection, key phrase extraction, the key phrases that are part of a paragraph or a piece of text, and the sentiment analysis. The only part that we actually didn't show is how do you actually get a service running, and how do you actually fill in the service key and the application and the endpoints that Alex used in his demo. And basically, what you actually need. Sorry about that. You need to basically create such a service in your Azure subscription. So if you go to, for example, to documentation, you will have a set of tutorials in the documentation and a bunch of how-to guides. The how-to guides will start with getting a sign-up, and then you will go for you will start with an Azure subscription, so you can use a free account or the student account.
Yeah,
right?
Students get free accounts with your university's emails.
Right.
And you also start with at least $100.
Exactly. But anyway, all of these services have free tiers available, so you can use it without actually consuming any of that credit.
And the free tier is really nice. I mean, for Vision, you have about 7,000 images. That's more than you need.
Yeah. So basically, what we didn't show, because it will probably have taken another 5 to 10 minutes, is in the Azure portal you will actually go to the AI and machine learning section, and then you would actually create a text analytics resource, which basically represents this particular online service. And once that service is created, you would have a way of going to that particular service page, and then you will get a endpoint URL, which is the one that Alex used, and you will also have access keys for it, which will allow your application to authenticate itself to the service that you just created. So this is the part that we kind of skipped from the demo, but you basically need to do this once at the beginning before you do this.
For the cognitive services template, we'll create that for you and pass it in the app settings adjacent, so you're not gonna leave the portal. But in case you want to see the key or reset the key or create another key, you need to go to the portal. Another cool stuff about cognitive services is now it works with pretty much anything. So one endpoint and one set of keys, let's say, the key 1 and key 2, because it generates two, can work with anything. Language, text, vision, it works with anything, so you can use one endpoint and one key for all your projects. That's really cool. And also the quota doesn't mean you can get 1,000 things recognized. No, you can get 1,000 things of pretty much everything, but they think actually 7,000 things for anything. So 7,000 text analyzed, 7,000 images analyzed, and more stuff. So you get a free quota for any service with the same API and the same API key. That's really cool.
Yeah. So the other thing is, like Alex said, you can use this from any language. So we just showed a .NET application and MVC, ASP.NET MVC using ASP.NET Core with C#. But if you want to use something like Java or Node.js or PHP, Python, whatever, you will have in the quick start section of the documentation, you will have links that will take you to a specific language, and you would be able to use those APIs from any kind of language that you would want. Okay, so I will take now the time to look at some other services that process text in the cognitive services area and show you some other cool things that you can do. So one thing that you may want to ask is, well, okay, so can text analysis seems like it can identify specific things like space needle or basically common things, but what if I want to build my own text understanding model? So maybe I want to build a, say, a home automation system that understands things like, hey, turn off the lights in the bedroom, or shut down the TV, or, you know, set the thermostat to 35 degrees, things like that. So basically, I want to create my own model that understands my specific use case, and my application can parse that and respond to that. Can I do that very simply, very easily? And the answer is yes. So one term that you may actually want to use is called LUIS, which stands for Language Understanding Service, which is also part of the Cognitive Services set. And you go to luis.ai, which is the homepage of this particular service. And once you log in, you will have access to a set of apps that you can create. So, for example, I can create quickly create a, say, MSP demo 1. You can select your culture. There are a few to choose from, not all of them. There are a few of them. So LUIS again will allow me to create a model that understands specific intent. So maybe I want to make my model understand whenever a user wants to turn on or turn off something in a home automation example. So this is modeled through something called intent, and I can create intents, or I can use some pre-built ones. So you can see here in the lower left that I have a pre-built domain button that I can use, for example, to create a set of intents, say, for, let's say, for example, home automation. Here it is, and add this domain. Okay. So once we've done that, we now have some intents here. Two of them actually, in addition to the non-default one. Some automation turn on and turn off. So these are things that I'm expecting my model to understand from a natural language query. And these are kind of the way that, these are kind of utterances or phrases that are exemplifying that particular intent. Another thing with AI is that you don't tell it what to do, you give it examples to learn from. So you may want to say, start something or turn something on with a specific device. So all these things that you see here are kind of placeholders. So all these are kind of example phrases or example utterances that may signify that particular intent, like turn on or turn off. In addition to intent, I will also have entities. So I don't want my model to just understand if I want to turn on or off something. I may also want to understand what I'm supposed to be turning on or off. So I'm actually modeling that through entities. So these are pieces of context from the natural language query that make the model understand that I'm referring to a specific device, for example. I want to turn off the TV or the thermostat or the lights. And also may also contain some specific entities related to the room. So I want to shut down the living room lights, right? Or the heater in the bedroom, things like that. So the model is actually very, very flexible. So all these are created as modeled as entities, and they are part of the intents, and they are marked as placeholders in the example intent. So I could have done this by hand, just add a bunch of examples here, but I've used the pre-built domain just to show you how they look like. So maybe I have turn, and I have an operation, either on or off, the furnace room lights. Okay, so these are entities like room, device, and operation that are part of the example utterances I've used. So what I can do now is I just train this model. So LUIS will take all these utterances and entities and intents that were created and just train this model real quick. This should take a little bit of time here because it's quite, we don't really have that many intents. And now, once we go to the test, section, we can do something like, we can have a test utterance for the model to chew on, basically. So let's just say turn on bedroom lights. So if I inspect the results on that platform, so this is my natural language query that maybe my user has posted. Maybe it was a speech type of input that then I converted to text through a speech-to-text service in Cognitive, or maybe it was something that they typed on their application on the mobile, right? They just want to turn on the bedroom lights. And this is the top scoring intent. It is a turn-on intent, which is kind of 84% sure that that's what my user wants to do. And then I have a bunch of contexts, right? I have the operation is on, the room is the bedroom, and the lights are the device's lights. So this is a kind of structured information that is parsed from the text that then my application can use to actually do the stuff without asking the user anything else, right? So my application should now be completely aware of what the user wants to do, and it can just go on and do it. I can also do something like living room, TV off. So these are all kinds of examples of utterances that I can use in my model. So now it's a turn off intent. I want to turn off. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So I want to turn off what? The TV. This is the device, the entity that models the device, TV, and the room is actually the living room. Okay. So how will we actually use this once we create this model? It's very similar to what Alex has shown. It has a endpoint, and you would either use, for example, a .NET SDK, NuGet package, or maybe if you use some other language, you can use that particular language. And you will also have in the same way you would have. Oops. You would have examples in, for example, .NET SDK, or maybe REST APIs, which are just HTTPS calls to the service, parsing JSON back and forth like you saw a bit earlier. Are we still live? Yeah, okay, cool. So that means we don't actually have time in this session to do an end-to-end demo, but this is basically how you can customize a language understanding model to understand your specific application intents and entities. Okay, can we just go back to the slides a little bit?
Sure. We have faster. Now,
okay. So another feature, text-based feature that we don't really have time to demo is the Bing spell check, which is kind of self-explanatory. You can understand in context what you're trying to do, so you can understand names and specific entities like Lyft, for example. Right now, Lyft is not Lyft is detected as a specific business rather than just a Lyft word. And so on. It works in the same way via a REST API, so it's just a bunch of JSON going back and forth to the service in a very similar fashion to the sentiment analysis demo that Alex showed. You have translations, so from something like 100 languages now, it's more than 60. This slide is actually quite old, it's actually close to 100 now. So we'll do translation. You already seen a demo on this to understand intent and specific pieces of context, like entities, from a natural language query that you can ask. Let's talk for 5 minutes about Video Indexer. Video Indexer is basically a service that is able to get insights and information from video, but it will also use some specific text analysis part, which is why we're actually showing this in this presentation, even though it's a kind of a video type of service. Let's do a quick demo on that. Can you just switch to the browser? Okay. So Video Indexer is another part of cognitive services. So it lives at videoindexer.ai URL. you can log in with your account. You have some a free tier as well to use for like any other service you can just use. It also has a portal, so you will be able to upload your own videos or use one of the pre-built videos that are available on the video indexer. So you can upload your videos, or you can just use some of the sample ones that exist in the video indexer. So I'm just going to use the sample Ignite 2016 keynote that was uploaded already into the service. So video indexer, once you give it a piece of video, will do a few things. So it will parse it and then understand, first of all, per people, so who is actually appearing in this video. You can actually train it to, yeah, we're going to cut the sound for a bit. So it's able to understand who is appearing in the video, either celebrities or specific people that you can actually train the model to understand. We don't have time to show that part. So for example, I may want to see where Julia White appears in the video. So we just jump to the next appearance of that particular person in the video. You can also have Katya, and we're just going to jump there. It's able to understand specific labels. So for example, visual labels. So maybe something that there is something related to tennis that appears as a specific part in this video. And who knows, maybe just saw like a tennis ball, maybe something that was mentioned in the video. For example, that was a little section of showing a church, and it was able to pick that up. You can understand brands. So there are a lot of brands that are maybe they are appearing somewhere in the description. So maybe, I don't know, iPhone, yeah, or Java. So if you go to Java, for example, it's able to understand that, for example, this is a slide that has somewhere in here there is a Java. There it is. There's a Java icon that was able to pick up from the video, which is actually put in here. Emotions, things like that. But the text part, which is actually what is also interesting, is that it does a transcript of the recording. So as people are actually speaking, it does a speech-to-text on your video, and it's able to give you a transcript, which should load quite quickly.
Yeah, you're going to likely start by running workloads both.
And I think we're actually going to need the sound for this. I'm going to, yeah.
With your existing bare metal servers or VMware or Hyper-V-based virtualization technology. And our management security solutions now enable you to easily manage your VMs, your servers, and apps in a hybrid cloud way. We now provide an integrated solution.
So hopefully you can actually hear Scott speaking, but maybe I want to hear whenever in that presentation was actually talked about Java. So I can just go in the timeline and search for Java, and I'm going to get to...
You can now also build apps in any language, including Java, Node.js, Python, PHP, and more.
Working on what we're doing for Java to make sure if you want to use Gradle or you...
Okay, so basically from the transcript, it was able to pick up, we're actually able to search the transcripts and see whenever specific things were mentioned. You can also see that we got some squiggly results like light gray. So these are actually not from the transcript, from the speech to text, but they are actually from text recognition from the video. So for example, if I go to this particular one,
CI build is already kicked off. So what I'm able to do is quickly CI build is already kicked off.
So in this case, there was actually the speaker was actually not mentioning Java. Instead, there was a piece of text here on the screen that contained the word Java, and the OCR, the character recognition engine inside Video Indexer, was able to pick that up, and it's actually put it as part of the transcript. So you can actually detect the things that were actually on the screen, not just the things that were actually spoken about. So this is Video Indexer. It also has a REST API. You can also use it from .NET and from any language. It's kind of a similar thing as for the demo that you saw earlier on sentiment analysis. And it also has a UI that you can actually use on its own. You can use it with your own videos. Okay, we're going to do just one more demo related to text, which is the Q&A maker. So Q&A maker basically allows you to create an agent that is able to respond to natural language queries, but unlike Luis, which responds to languages to specific intent that you need to train with. In terms of Q&A maker, you will train this service with a Q&A list. So basically, maybe a wiki that you have a question and answer list, maybe an FAQ page, like frequently asked questions page, maybe or even like a custom document with questions and answers. So maybe let's say that I have the FAQ for the Imagine Cup, and I actually want to build a small box that is able to help and guide the users and respond to their natural questions, even though those questions may not actually be asked in the same format or the same order as they are asked in the FAQ. So this is the FAQ for Imagine Cup, which lives at a specific URL, and maybe now I can go in and create a knowledge base. So I need to create a Q&A service. I've already done that before. It's kind of a similar thing to the text analytics. You go to the Azure portal, and create a Q&A service. And you should have one. I'm going to select my particular subscription, and I have a service that is already created in Azure. This will take like 5 to 6 minutes, so we're going to skip it for the demo, and I'm going to say MSP Ignite Imagine demo. And now I need to give it my knowledge base. So either FAQ, product manual, wiki will work, any kind of structure, maybe even a Word document that has Q&A lists of things. So maybe I just pop in this particular FAQ. Just give me a chance here. I'll just copy that into the Q&A, yeah. Okay. So we've got this. You can add multiple ones. You can even select like a sort of personality for that, for your bot, for your model. But we just create a QB, okay? So this will actually take maybe a few seconds because our knowledge base isn't really that big. So once the model learns from this Q&A, from this knowledge base, you will be able to ask it various things related to your domain, and it also has a REST endpoint. You can do a few things. You can, for example, create a bot using Microsoft Bot Framework to take those queries and reply in a natural language way, or maybe you could just create an app or a website, depending on what you want to do. Okay, so this may actually take a little bit, just because it seems to be taking a little bit longer than I expected. I can just maybe go to the one that I've already created a bit earlier. Yeah, so just go to my knowledge base and we go to this one. So this was trained, so you actually, just like with Luis, you need to go and train your model. And then this is the kind of Q&A pairs, questions and answer pairs that the service has picked up from our FAQ. And now I can hit test, for example, and just ask a question: where to register for Imagine Cup? And it's just going to find the answer that is the closest to the question that was actually asked. Okay. So can I join an existing team? Things like that. A team must already be created, or you can create with your mates. Okay. So you're just going to find the closest possible answer. Okay, so we are kind of almost out of time here. These are kind of the services, some of the services that we wanted to show to you guys. This is kind of the next step. So all these services are very easy to use. You just create them from the browser, from the Azure portal, and then you maybe customize them like Luis and Q&A Maker, and then you use them through REST API or just .NET packages. If you want to customize your language understanding model, so for example, you want to use specific machine learning models, maybe say you have some statistics knowledge or data science knowledge, the next step would be to use Azure Machine Learning Studio. So this is an example of how we can use this to train your custom model by using machine learning models that are kind of built for this type of work. So this Azure Machine Learning Studio will be kind of the next step in customization beyond applications.
It uses Python and R for the base languages, so any data scientist can work here. You can implement any state-of-the-art model for anything.
Right. So cognitive services is for everyone. Any kind of developer can use cognitive services. You don't need to be a
Data scientist
or statistician or things like that. If you have those skills or want to learn those skills, Azure Machine Learning Studio can actually help you there. And it has specific modules for text analytics in particular. Azure.com/cognitive is where you start. All right, so maybe we have like 1 or 2 minutes for questions. If anyone has any question, then that would be a good time to pop into the chat, into the live chat, and just ask us whatever you want. Just going to give it 20 seconds for the Q&A. And if there are no questions, then we really thank you for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll see you next time with more interesting content, technical content.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.